Hello, I'm Dr. Scott Wadier.
And I'm Tommy Welling, and you're listening to the Fasting for Life podcast.
This podcast is about using fasting as a tool to regain your health, achieve ultimate wellness, and live the life you truly deserve.
Each episode is a short conversation on a single topic with immediate actionable steps. We cover everything from fat loss and health and wellness to the science of lifestyle design.
We started Fasting for Life because of how fasting has transformed our lives, and we hope to share the tools that we have learned along the way.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Fasting for Life podcast. My name is Dr. Scott Wadier, and I'm here, as always, with my good friend and colleague, Tommy Welling. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hey, Scott, how are you?
Fantastic, my friend. Excited for today's conversation. We are bringing another listener Q&A, email Q&A, coaching Q&A to you. We've picked, hand-selected some really great questions that I think are going to answer some questions that we get over and over and over and over again. So excited to dive into those and continue to support y'all on your fasting and fasting for life journeys. First and foremost, give a shout out to the gentleman in the Facebook group who asked if someone was snacking on the podcast. And I want to give you a shout out, man, because that made me laugh.
Yeah.
The reality is I've been fighting to get my immune system back up here for well over a month now. And I've relied on lots and lots of lozengers. So the mics are so fancy. I shut all the stuff off and tried to mute it. And the producer, shout out Brad, tried to fix it. And lo and behold, it sounds like I'm munching on chips. But no, I wish it wasn't for my sore throat and cough, right?
Yeah.
So just a shout out to you, sir. Funny times. Nothing. Full transparency on this podcast. So if you are new, you're going, okay, what the heck are these guys talking about?
Right.
Welcome in. If you want to know more, if you're new to the podcast, if you stumbled upon us or it was shared or somebody phoned a friend and said, hey, check these guys out. We appreciate you. Head back to episode 1. Give us a listen. It'll tell you more about our journey, how fasting transformed our lives, and ultimately why we're taking on the diabetes and obesity and health epidemic. One podcast episode, one challenge, one email, one person at a time. So before we dive in to today's Q&A, Tommy, I want to give a shout out to MSWAQQ, MSWAQQ, our most recent 5-star rating. We got over 1,020 ratings on the podcast, Tommy. Just incredible.
Nice. Thank you, guys.
Yes. Filled with gratitude because this literally allows us to continue to get the message out. It tells the podcast world that we're bringing value each and every week. Obviously, the 5-star reviews are our favorite kind, and we are biased, of course, but we have lots of them. So if it's an indicator, we're going to keep bringing the value each and every week. So shout out. Right. The listener says, I've been listening and learning so much. My biggest issue is my consistency. I am plugging away. I love the
excellent
active nature of that statement.
Yeah. Plugging away is an active acknowledgement that you are taking action right now. I absolutely love that because, you got to control what you can control. Not every day is going to feel like a 10 necessarily, but when you're taking a deliberate action, like just pushing play and just absorbing something new, something that gives you a little bit different perspective, then you're going to pick up little tips, little tricks, little mindset, little motivation here and there that's going to spark some further action. And that's where we see new results. So absolutely great job. Keep up the good work and keep plugging away.
Absolutely. The part that I really like about it is that this is something that we've struggled with. If you're a long-term listener, you know it. We're going to give a shout out to somebody working on maintenance or one of the questions they submitted. Is consistency. It's not like we have a magic pill. Yes, fasting can be incredible. There can be a magic pill for breaking a plateau or lifestyle transformation or kicking cravings to the curb or those types of things. But the consistent action is what gets us there. So it's like, I don't have enough time. Well, we all have the same hours in the day. So how does Elon Musk do it? I'm over here struggling with 3 kids and a couple businesses and a coaching company, right? And my wife and all the other stuff we do. And I'm like, well, we got the same time in the day. Like, how does he accomplish so much, right? So same thing with consistency. It's like, well, there's consistent things that people do to get results. So if we look at the healthy person or the fit person, they don't have a magic superpower, right? They have consistency. And that's something that we preach and live in and out each and every day that we talk about fasting, which, by the way, is 24/7, 365.
Absolutely.
So it's what we do. So let's hop in. And if you're struggling with consistency, I want to say this now. The best thing I can recommend for you is hop in one of our challenges. Because we build out your journey with you hand in hand over the course of 7 days, and it's an absolute incredible boot camp style experience. So want to give you that encouragement, but also thank you so much for the shout out. Continue to listen in, and appreciate you being on this fasting journey with us. So,
yes.
Tommy, let's start with a question or a statement followed by a question. My commitment to follow the schedule. This comes in from Angela, and it's, I'm going to break my fast today, but I was thinking of going on. Anyone else out there thought that?
Okay.
Or, I'm supposed to keep fasting. I set my timer for 72, but I'm 24 hours in. I think I'm going to break it.
Yeah. Things have changed a little bit, right? Yeah.
So here's the question. Is this a bad idea? Or should I go for as long as I can? ? Or stay on schedule to what I committed to at the beginning of the week? Great question, Angela. Love the framework, something we get in and out. So some of y'all that are listening now are going, yeah, that's me. Raise my hand, right?
Sure.
Yep, nailed it.
Sure. And it can feel like, hey, this might be a good idea because sneaking in a few extra hours of burn time, I get to burn through some of those long-term fat stores a little bit more.
Feeling good, gonna push it.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And especially, the earlier part of a fast, or maybe for me, it's that first overnight. It's that first dinner, that first skip dinner.
Nailed it. It's the first overnight.
Yeah. And that can be tough. It's tough physiologically. It's tough, like just habitually, and just, potentially boredom wise or like time management wise. It can just feel like, or socially, it can feel like you're kind of putting something off. But once you get past that first one, it's like smooth sailing. It can be smooth sailing after that. So the temptation here would be adding in a few extra, burn hours, or maybe an extra burn day or two, because you kind of got over that hurdle, right? And so, but here's the tricky part. Tricky part is that the trust that we have with ourselves when we make a commitment to something is really, really important and often overlooked, not really talked about that much. So the
Stop there for a second.
Okay.
You tell someone else now you're going to help them move on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
And you give your word to them, and then you don't show up. That's really hard to do.
That is, yeah. But there's going to be consequences to that. Like, it's going to put a strain, right?
Guilt, shame, disappointment, right? All the stuff we don't want. But then the hardest people to coach are ourselves, but we tell ourselves we're going to do something every day when it comes to our lifestyle or our health, right?
True.
But it's really easy to go back on your own word when it comes to you, but not for somebody else.
Yeah. That's because sometimes there's no consequence to it. There's no social pressure. There's no, I know I'm going to forget about it. But the tricky thing is, there subconsciously, we really don't forget. It's a vote. It's a vote towards the trust and confidence that I have in myself, that I can set myself up to do something, and then I'm going to follow through with it, or I'm not going to follow through with it. And sometimes this like trust meter is something that we don't really check in with very often. So here's the point. The point would be, if you set yourself up to do something, to commit to a fast, then the best thing to do in our experience is to follow through with it, complete it as planned, so that you really trust yourself even more the next time you set yourself up for a fast. It might be the next day. It might be after you break that one. Maybe it's a few days from then. It doesn't really matter when it is, but that feeling sticks with you. That like, I set myself up to do it, and then I completed it. It's a lot of dopamine. It's a lot of wins. It's a lot of additional boosts and trust for yourself that we feel like really usually far outweighs those few extra hours, or even an extra day or two worth of burn time for those long-term fat stores.
I don't like open-ended. Now, unless there's a specific example, like last fall, I think it was over Christmas, actually. I have no calendar. I can't remember. Is when I was like, all right, I need to do a longer fast. My blood sugars were up. I just felt off. My cravings were up.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just going to fast until my blood sugars come down.
Okay.
Well, I'll be damned. I must have been fighting something or not sleeping, or I don't remember, but I'll be damned if it wasn't day 2 where I'm like, okay, they're still higher than they normally are. That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Day 3, nope. Day 4, nope. Day 5, nope. Day 6, nope. Day 7, nope. Day 8. Oh, all right. We got it. They're back down to normal.
Oh, wow.
Holy moly. So
Jeez.
if there's an outcome you're waiting for, like you're trying to get into deep therapeutic ketosis, sure, do the open-ended. But like I might do a 7 or a 10-day fast. Okay. Which one is it? Right?
Yeah.
So, but in these shorter fasts,
it's likely to be neither is
Right.
what I also heard there. Yeah.
Right. So it's that commitment, right? And so at the shorter fast, it's a lot easier to just toss it in the trash can because it's not such of a commitment. So
Yeah.
I love the fact that we're getting those repetitions and hitting the singles, so to speak. Getting men on base, getting opportunities to score the runs.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that consistency, that consistent vote for you, putting you first, and ultimately sticking to the plan. So great question, Angela. Love it. Hopefully y'all can relate to being in one of those camps or experiencing that. With either deciding on when to break a fast, stick to the plan, or breaking a fast, extending a fast, or breaking a fast early, I should say. So another schedule question that we had that came up, Tommy, I want you to set the stage for this one.
Okay.
It's really about the planning of the week. So if you've been doing some fasting and you've been putting some planning in place, but really how to get the consistency, which is great for the shout out from MSWAC, I believe it was.
Keep plugging away.
Keep plugging away, that consistency piece. So unpack this next one that came in from Shane.
Okay. So the setup goes like this. I've basically been planning my fast out every week with consistency. So sitting down every Sunday before the week starts. Okay. So I got a good plan. I've written it down. I've committed to it. I know what I'm going to do for the week. I know what the plan is. And this is for a fat loss phase too. And I seem to have good momentum for a few days. I'm with it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but each week, Thursday or Friday rolls around and I just, for whatever reason, I seem to go off track. I got some moving parts, on the weekend, but I had a plan for the weekend. So it's not like everything just changed, but my momentum has waned by the time the weekend is coming around. So, and I don't get back on track or kind of come back mentally online, more vigilant until like Sunday night when it's time to kind of, quiet, settle down and plan again for the upcoming week. So it's like the diet roller coaster, crazy train over and over again, Groundhog Day. What should I do? So this is really cool. I've absolutely been there, and this can feel like, man, how do I break myself out of this rut? Because I just feel like I know what the mistake is, or I know where I'm going off track. I'm just not quite sure what to do about it, right?
The halfway point of the week is Thursday at noon.
That is not intuitive.
Some of y'all are going, what the hell is he talking about? The halfway point of the week is Thursday at noon. There's a lot of time from Thursday at noon to Monday morning, right? That can go because of increased opportunities, changes in plans, not knowing the plans, impromptu invites, weather, illness, children. You could, the life list just goes on and on and on, right?
Emotional volatility, boredom, just open time frames.
I deserve it. It has been a tough week, right? All of that stuff, right? So to what you're saying is like, that's the time where we need more planning. The busier we are Monday through Thursday, the less likely we are to have this time and the opportunity to throw in the towel and have to do the regain, I'll start on Monday again, the restart each and every week. So that halfway point on Thursday of the week, that I would say is more important than the first part of the week. So shifting your focus to planning then versus planning the beginning of the week, I think a touch point there would be an incredible place to start in terms of creating some of that consistency.
So getting right in front of the normal off track point maybe is what I heard there. So maybe a Thursday night or even a Thursday afternoon or Wednesday night planning rather than the Sunday night planning. make that kind of the anchor point. Start there, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't know if this analogy is going to land, but tell me. So it's like you're shopping and you're doing good and you're putting all the whole foods in, and you know, you got a couple of things in there that you're not going to be just omitting and restricting your way into painting yourself into a corner of fear of missing out with your foods.
Okay. Yeah. Intentional grocery shopping.
Yeah. But then you're like, you know what? I'll just get the half gallon of ice cream. I have better consistent control. I'll be fine.
Okay.
You put it in the cart, and then all of a sudden you see it when you open the freezer to get the chicken nuggets for the kids, right? And you're like,
staring at you.
Staring at you.
Yeah.
So a little bit of planning ahead of time of until you get better consistency or get to a place where you feel more confident and comfortable around those foods, you just don't buy it. So a little bit of planning in that moment of decision, right? So the moment of that Thursday to Friday transition, a little bit of planning and forethinking there might be enough just to kind of push you into that more consistent bucket.
Okay. So, and what if you also did this? What if you also didn't try to just, again, swing for the fences on that second half of the week so much?
Yeah.
What, right? Like even if you maintained all of your control and your progress the second half of the week, if it's been going way off track, right, to where you feel like you're kind of undoing your progress from Monday through Thursday or Monday through Wednesday, what if the goal was just to maintain your progress from the rest of the week? And so it's more vigilant fat loss Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. What if you're practicing maintenance reps at that point? And then as you get a little bit more consistent to that, then you can start pushing it even harder, maybe. Yep. If you want to, if you find that to be appropriate, that would be a lot better than what the last few weeks have done, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Cool.
Love the question. Love the intention. All right, let's shift a little bit. We're going to shift into a couple different questions around very specific, like surgical procedures. Got some intestinal discomfort, and this one I want to go to next. There's a question that came in from Dr. Nancy, and the question is: can you lose too much weight in the first week that would be detrimental? I'm thinking no, and I'm sure you've seen many lose quickly, maybe especially in men in the notorious metabolism.
Sure.
Well, myth busted. We'll get there in a second, but would love to hear your experience and insight. I've been fasting and continually go through your material. Thank you.
Awesome.
So, great question, because we've all heard this: don't lose weight too fast. 1 pound a week, right?
Sure.
That's an average. 0.75 to 1 pound a week is a healthy weight loss. And we have a little nuance to this, because if you're on the hormone imbalanced, insulin resistant roller coaster, the metabolically active visceral fat that's imbalancing your hunger and satiety cues with your leptin and ghrelin hormones is part of the problem. It's not just the calorie, it's the factors that influence the behaviors and the intake and the decisions you make around your food choices, activity levels, etc. Stress, sleep, etc., all that stuff. So when I hear this question, I'm like, well, if you're going to do low calorie, eat less, move more, low calorie, higher insulinogenic environment, which is snacking, eating, protein shakes, right?
In an effort to fuel, to stoke the fire, to fuel the metabolism, right? Or
decrease the intake, right? You're in a deficit. You're in a consistently stimulated blood sugar insulin state. You've got some hormone imbalances, maybe some insulin resistance, some weight loss resistance, some metabolic dysfunction, maybe some labs are off, etc.
Visceral fat.
We got to get the weight off. Like, you're going to lose some muscle as you lose weight. Now, the best ways to counteract that is to prioritize protein and do strength training. Separate and distinct things: losing fat, gaining muscle. Fasting protects that lean muscle tissue. So, really, is there a concern of losing weight too fast? Now, if you lose a bunch of weight and you get overconfident and then you get back on the regain train, then it's the behavior, not the actual weight loss. So again, there's a consistency thread that's throughout this entire Q&A, is that if you go low carb and start fasting and say you're just starting to push your fasting windows, or maybe you did a challenge or you're about to do a challenge and you're getting prepped for it, or you're at a plateau, whatever. You're going to have the loss of water because you're not ingesting food. And if you're decreasing your carbs, same thing. You don't need the water or the water weight, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to see that whoosh, right?
Yeah, it could be a big scale movement.
Yeah. And in a week, you're not losing fat in a week, maybe some grams.
Sure.
Right. You got to get through that short-term glycogen, through that air quotes water weight, through the skeletal muscle short-term energy stores before you can tap into those long-term fat stores.
Yeah. And depending on what your habits were, like leading up to that, I mean, it might be a big movement on the scale, and it doesn't matter if you're male or female. It can be a very big movement on the scale. And so, recognizing the fact that when you control for height and weight differences between male and female, there's not that big of a difference as far as metabolic rate. So, it's mostly going to be based on actual lean muscle mass. So if you control for lean muscle mass, it's not very much different. But you have obviously, on average, fairly sizable differences in average height and weight. And so that accounts for most of the metabolic difference there. So kind of dispelling that and kind of leaving that aside, that kind of assumption aside, I think is very helpful too for thinking about this as you kind of go into, okay, what am I doing fasting wise? What should I expect? And is there a concern if I see a big change on the scale? Should I slow down? Because let's say I had a more indulgent weekend. Let's say maybe I was out of town. Maybe there's a birthday celebration. A lot of carbs ingested. Maybe went out to a restaurant once or twice. You could be coming into Monday morning very glycogen full, so you could be at a high point for your weight. And then if you did that, and then you immediately went into, let's say, a 24-hour fast or maybe a 36-hour fast, I mean, you could see a large change on the scale over the next 1, 2, 3 days. And if you weren't really expecting that, it could be like, whoa, like it could really give you, a reaction to seeing that on the scale. But I wouldn't back off. I wouldn't consume more calories or more meals to kind of counteract that change on the scale. I would slow things down, not make an immediate decision on that, especially if that was the first time that I've had that. See how you feel, and then make sure your next meal you're breaking your fast, eating to satiety, and prioritizing protein, right? And don't worry too much about what you just saw on the scale. See what you see the next day.
What I just heard there was the only downside that we can see, which is the volatility in the scale that's going to affect your behavior, that's going to put you on the regain yo-yo, lose 5, gain 5, lose 8, gain 8 train. That's the only downside.
I hate that
But
train.
it's all about, right? Yeah, no, get off the regain train, right? This whole metabolism myth busting thing, like just set an intention, a little outside of your comfort zone, set the fast, be intentional, break your fast with quality food, right? Those behavioral changes are going to insulate you from the only downside we see, which is just that flip-flop regain train kind of yo-yo type dieting.
Yeah, which leads to frustration and then crushes motivation as well.
Yep. So the answer is no, there's no downside except if your behavior doesn't change, right? So that's our take on it. Great question, Dr. Nancy. Thank you so much for submitting it. All right, we got 2 more here.
Cool.
We've got a question coming in from Marty from Montana. I feel like I'm on like talk radio.
Right. Yeah, we have a call coming in. Marty from Montana. All right, go ahead,
Line
Marty.
1.
What's on your mind?
Diehard listener and follower. Thank you so much, Marty. Yes. The question is, how can someone suffering from gastritis tap into the healing benefits of fasting? If this person goes very long without food in her stomach, she suffers severe pain from gastritis.
Oh, no. Okay. Wow.
Right?
So that's definitely a tricky situation, but it reminds me of the situation that we talked about probably a couple hundred episodes ago.
Oh gosh.
With respect to gout, when we talked about gout, and it can almost be like finding the sweet spot where you can go without increasing that discomfort, and then we kind of focus on that time frame right there. So figuring out kind of where that is. So did Marty give any details about length of fast or anything like that? Okay, so no. So what I would be thinking here is, okay, Marty, can you go to 16 hours without distress? I'm thinking that you can, but okay, let's say you can. Then can you go to 20? Can you do an OMAD? Can you get to 22, 23 hours without distress? And then what happens if you went from lunch one day to dinner the next day and you start pushing into that 30-hour mark? Can you do that? Can you do it comfortably? Like at what point can we not do? Because if the goal here is fat loss, then we need to be able to incorporate, or we would like to be able to incorporate some of these longer fasts that we get 20 hours plus, maybe we get into the 30-hour range, and then we can start focusing in on those before we reach that gastritis, inflammation, very, very high discomfort point. And then at the same time, we can also hone in on food choices as well, because food choices are absolutely going to make a difference in gastrointestinal, distress and upset as well. So maybe documenting some food choices and then how you feel after these fasts for a few days would be very helpful too. What do you think, Scott?
100% agree. And there's not just lack of food or food related causes of gastritis, right? So if we're looking at it, you've got bacterial, viral, opportunistic infections, certain medications like aspirin, ibuprofen, naproxen, alcohol, autoimmune, stress, even stress or illness, right, can cause this. So I love the idea of building up to your tolerance, right? And fasting can actually relieve the acute symptoms because what they found is after 1 or 2 days, you typically, if you can get through that plateau. We had a client, one of the first testimonials, reversed her diabetes, et cetera. She used to always get headaches at like the 22 to 24 hour mark, but she's trying to reverse blood sugar issues. And I'm like, you got to get through it. You got to get through it.
Right.
So we strategized in our coaching calls, and she finally broke through. And then just recently, she's like, yeah, I do a 72-hour fast every quarter now. I'm like, you don't get headaches anymore? She's like, no.
Amazing.
So your stomach now has a consistent level of certain enzymes or lack of enzymes. A lot of times in the inflammatory side or the GERD side, it's people think it's an overactive or high stomach acid. A lot of times it's the opposite. It's low.
Okay.
And your body's used to having this constant bolus of food come in, right? So a couple of things you can do specifically is, like Tommy said, build up, right? And then, but hydration, trace minerals, mineral water, herbal teas, to keep you hydrated while you're fasting. And then one thing I would actually do is when you get about ready to get to that wall, I would, after you've journaled and looked into some of the food stuff and try to push those windows a little bit, right when you get to that wall, is use something like a bone broth. Because the power of fasting, bone broth has all the healthy constituents in it that's going to allow you to heal the gut lining, right? It's very powerful in terms of a healing properties with bone broth, specifically for the gut. So you could do some broth fasting to push through those windows.
Great idea.
Dr. Jockers has a great resource on that. If you just Google Dr. David Jockers, friend, colleague, he has a great couple of articles out there about broth fasting.
Yeah.
What you can do is you want to get to that 24-hour plus mark, because that's where we see the stem cells in the gut kick up. That's where the healing is going to take place. So you can absolutely do it. You just need to be strategic about it and understand what's happening underneath the surface.
Wow. Great points. I love that. The cool thing about broth fasting and the cool thing about breaking a fast with a broth or focusing on that, especially with gastrointestinal issues going on, is that the physical degradation that food actually, the role that it plays in actually sloughing off the lining within the digestive tract. Like that's what it does every time that we ingest food. That's what's meant to happen. But at the same time, it can be another one of those cycles that just continues over and over again. And so if we can use one of these like bone broth to kind of throw a wrench in that, to kind of just pause the cycle long enough so that we can have some better healing taking place, because like think on the more extreme side of that, if we're eating 3 solid meals a day or 4, 5, 6 times in a day, we're not allowing any time for any regeneration really going on. So as soon as we have an issue, it tends to perpetuate because we don't have enough time for that issue to actually heal itself so that we can get off of the crazy train right there. So just a little bit more encouragement for you too.
I absolutely I was just going to say the word encouragement, Marty from Montana. And I know this isn't for you, but this is for someone in your family. So I want to be encouraging that, there's a lot of stuff like carbonated drinks, coffee, fatty foods, fried food. You got to figure out what's triggering it, right? Then there's the other causes, but fasting can be a powerful tool. And we've had other people tell us that they had digestive volatility on all forms of the spectrum. Oh, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And it's improved. So I want to give you the green light that it can be done. And I really appreciate you, Marty from Montana, submitting this question on our talk radio Q&A today.
Right.
So
thanks for calling in.
Yeah, right. Bringing me back. All right, last one. Daniela, message. I'm going to have a surgical procedure and wondered if there are any fasting recommendations to improve healing. I'm a long-time faster currently trying to figure out maintenance. Down 100 pounds in about 2 years.
Wow, triple digits.
Whoop. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you for making us a part of your journey by sharing your story. That's incredible. The power of fasting right there. All right. Typically, I'll do OMAD with 2 to 4 48-hour fast a month. All right. Surgical procedures. So I've had one of these in the last few years, and I truly believe that my fasting lifestyle helped me get through post-surgical pain and rehab faster than it would have if I didn't fast.
Awesome.
Also, the fasting leading up to that, getting the weight off, being more metabolically happy, my labs being in the right place, absolutely helped the outcome of the surgery.
Right.
So the fact that you're 100 pounds down, figuring out maintenance, you're in a great place. Follow the pre-surgical recommendations. Okay, I'm not going to recommend you go long fast into it. Doesn't sound like you're going to do that anyway. Because when it comes to anesthesia, etc., there's very specific guidelines on life-saving outcomes, right? They're trying to minimize risk, right? So let's not mess with the risk equation. Like along came Polly, right? Where he's got his pro and con list.
Right.
The base jumping crazy CEO, right? We don't need to mess with it. Coming out of the surgery, here's what I did is I only took pain medication for a couple of days. I couldn't stomach it. It made me go crazy. Like I didn't like the thoughts. I didn't like who I was. I just suffered through the pain once the nerve block wore off. Don't know the procedure you're having. But then I did come to find out, and I did a short-term antibiotic. I talked to my surgeon. I was like, I don't want to be on this stuff. Like, what's the shortest duration I can do? So other than like things you need to take with food so you don't destroy your stomach lining or whatnot, or they're the most effective, follow the recommendations. But I would highly recommend doing bone broth, and also like probably doing a longer fast, coming out specifically in that 48 to 72 hour range, because of the decrease in the inflammatory cytokines that you will have post-surgery. So that would be my one main recommendation is follow the guidelines leading in. And then on the other side, use bone broth to help navigate those first few days. And if there's any medical recommendations, medication issues. And then I would say, putting in some of those longer extended fasts more frequently is going to help get that inflammation and promote that healing process. I
love all that. I'm going to add one thing to it, which is going to be...
Nope, not allowed.
Yeah, right. Is thinking about, when we're in a state like coming off of a surgery, that can be a more sedentary time. That can be a time for rest, for healing, which is a good thing. But at the same time, it can be an opportunity depending on your habits and your behaviors. Do you tend to go towards the fridge or towards the pantry in times of boredom or stress or frustration?
Good point. Right? You're going to have more
Okay.
downtime.
You can have more downtime. So kind of insulating yourself, protecting your environment a little bit. So be a little more strategic going to the grocery store, putting things into the pantry, or maybe clearing a few things out of the pantry so that maybe some of those temptations aren't there. Maybe grabbing some more lower carb snacks that you can munch on when you are truly physically hungry, so that it's less likely to be tempted by the comfort foods or more carbohydrate rich snacks that you really don't want and aren't going to help you on the scale, aren't going to help you in your recovery process. They're not going to help you prioritizing protein, which is what your body's going to be looking for, a lot of good nutrients in the form of protein and fats. So be prepared for that, so that your environment is going to kind of match your long-term goals and promoting the healing. So stock up on some bone broth, get some lower carb, maybe some beef sticks, some beef jerky around. Just do a little bit of prep goes a long way going into that kind of thing.
And we wish you a successful procedure, a quick recovery, and just ultimate supernatural healing as you go through that journey.
Absolutely.
It is never fun, but sometimes it's necessary. So shout out to you. So thank you all for submitting the questions. I love Q&As. We promise we got away from them for a little while. I'm not really sure why. But we're back on track. Every 4 to 6 episodes, we're going to be doing a QA. If you have a question, feel free to reach out. We try to get to all the questions. Sometimes the questions aren't able to be replied via email, because it's how do you have a conversation about gastritis? It's better just to come prepared to talk about it in an audio medium and then send you the recording or ping you when the recording's up. So appreciate y'all. If you're looking for support, head to the show notes, head to the Facebook group, download the Blueprint to Fasting the Blueprint to Fasting for Fat Loss. Grab one of our other resources. Join a challenge. You want some consistency and some community? Come on in. The water's warm. Appreciate y'all for listening in today. Tommy, as always, appreciate the conversation, sir. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
So, you've heard today's episode, and you may be wondering, where do I start? Head on over to thefastingforlife.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive fasting tips and strategies to maximize results and fit fasting into your day-to-day life.
While you're there, download your free Fast Start guide to get started today. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Fasting for Life.